My name is Ray-Mason. I am a independent IT consultant. I have roughly 25 years professional IT experience in the industry, either on the software or hardware side, either as an individual contributor all the way up through senior level management. Most recently, working for a large medical device company with facilities both internationally and domestically. And that's where I ran all of their global. The reason I was brought in was really to assess and determine why the operations infrastructure was having so many issues, whether it was availability, uptime, issues with downtime, problems when they were rolling out new versions of code or product into the infrastructure, or just our ability to support it. A great example would be we ran 24/7. You have production support in off hours. There would be an incident or an issue, and the operations team was really the last group to know what was going on. So rather than them being the first to know and then respond, remediate the issue in a very transparent way, they were typically notified by the customer that there was an outage. So it was a very reactive versus a very proactive environment. And then when you dug into it, and I asked the specific questions, why do we have this operational mode? The response would be, we have multiple ways that we monitor our infrastructure, whether it's a specific point solution for our databases, for our server side, for our network infrastructure, for our storage. And it was very difficult for the entire team to get a very holistic picture as far as what was going on. It was very difficult to trust the data that these point solutions were providing. You would get one set of metrics or information from one solution, which happened to be managed by a sub-team or an organization with my specific department, or I'd have an international or remote group that was using another monitoring tool that provided different set of metrics or information. And so then when you get into this troubleshooting mode to try to figure out what's going on, if the information doesn't tie up together, you spend lots and lots of time trying to figure out where the actual problem is. And when downtime causes lost revenue, every minute that's lost means revenue that's away from the actual business itself. You know, one of the issues that I saw when I first started was you have this notion of tribal knowledge. And tribal knowledge, the idea there is that nothing is documented. It's information that's kept in an individual or set of individuals' heads, and it's very difficult to reproduce. And if that person or set of people happen to leave the company or the organization, that information flows out with them, and then you're starting from scratch once again. So what I found is that depending upon which group or team within my organization, they had written custom scripts to monitor, say for example, how does a set of databases, how do they respond or how do they perform? And then they wrote triggers to either send out specific emails to themselves to say if there was a problem, a backup broke, database sizes grew past a certain specific threshold, they were notified, but no one on the applications team knew, or no one on the application support team knew. So if there was an incident, the DBAs knew, but no one else within the organization knew. So then you start this trickle-down effect as far as the customer calls, I have a problem. Where's the actual problem, right? The first line responders, which are the service desk, the application support team, they don't know. So they have to start going and asking very specific questions, all based on tribal knowledge, right? That is really one of the primary driver that drove me to have that discussion about, well, how do we get more of a comprehensive view of what's going on. Went back and actually looked at one of the incumbent products, a product called IP Monitor, which was partially implemented, and we really wanted to give it a run for its money to see whether or not it could actually do the job. So we invested time and consulting dollars to try to ramp the product up and actually see if we can deploy it globally. And also, given that we were a very large Microsoft shop, we took a look at the Microsoft specific stack, open source tools for Linux that were based around Linux as well, BMC software, and then also.
So what was it about Nimsoft that won you over?
Well, when it came down to it, my previous organization had it was very much a heterogeneous environment. So it wasn't pure Microsoft, it wasn't pure Linux. There were multiple vendors on the database side, multiple layers on the network side, multiple vendors on the storage side. And I needed a solution that allowed me to monitor all the various components without having to buy add-on products, add-on components, and then tie them together.
So your environment was both physical and virtual, correct? And Nimsoft's ability to cover those bases was a winning factor as well.
Absolutely. So large VMware infrastructure, large investment in VMware, approximately 55 to 60 ESX servers, maybe managing upwards to 650, 700 virtual servers in that environment.
And given the distributed nature of the business, Nimsoft fit that requirement as well, correct?
Absolutely. So what it did was, rather than build a skill set or create a bottleneck within operations, I really wanted a distributed administration model. So the application owners, the support teams, the various infrastructure teams, whether it was the virtualization, the Windows team, storage team, network team, applications groups, even the developers in QA, they would use or implement a default set of monitors and then customize or tweak them for their specific area of expertise, because they understood the behavior, they understood what they wanted to monitor, what the thresholds were, and when they wanted to be alerted. They knew when bad things were going to happen, and they wanted the system to tell them prior to those bad things occurring. And Nimsoft gave me the ability to distribute that administration model out. So I had one individual who was the company expert that built all of the templates, and then that individual trained the various teams to go out and customize the monitors based on the applications that they developed or supported.
Okay. Let's talk about the results of your Nimsoft investment. I understand first it was instrumental in reducing the complexity that you had in your existing tool set. Is that correct?
Yes, it was. And the great thing about the tool, or once we ended up settling on Nimsoft and deploying it, it allowed us, one, to idle down or tear down the point solutions that were in place. And now I have a very consistent single pane of glass into my operational environment. It took us from almost a black box where people really didn't know what was going on to a very transparent environment. People can look at monitors, we can create custom dashboards for them. We put up 50-inch plasma displays around the campus that actually people could see the dashboards run, what the SLAs were, what the status of various applications and infrastructure stacks, what they were actually doing. So one of the, I guess the best benefits of the product is that it allowed the team to focus in on activities that helped generate revenue, that added value to the business, versus being this constant reactive firefighting mode. And now the business is able to focus in on, how do we improve the product? How do we improve the product or add new features to generate more revenue, versus wondering what is going on in this IT operations space, this black box that no one really understood, right? So we've taken the covers off. It's very transparent because you really don't want to hide anything, right? So the value that operations or IT brings is to allow the business do what it does best. In the case of my previous employer, it was manufacturing this medical device, and every single one added revenue to the business. And so bottom line, we're there to assist the company, generate revenue, maintain uptime so the business can grow.
Ray, I'd like to say thank you very much for sharing your firsthand experience with Nimsoft.
Thank you very much.